All right, we wake up this morning. Time has sprung forward, and major news is hitting on multiple fronts. One of these deals for is finalized. Myles Garrett, every man has his price. He is sticking with the Cleveland Browns, 40 million per year. Surpasses not only Nick Bosa's contract, but also Max Crosby's new deal by a whole heck of a lot. We'll show that in a bit, but we also have an update on Joey Bosa. I put in 49ers closing in on Nick Bosa. Now they're closing in on Joey Bosa. What can I say? The time has sprung forward. We all lost an hour's sleep, but it's all good because it's going to be light later today. 49ers closing on Joey Bosa. This is from my colleague, Tim Kawakami. Why don't I just show you from the source himself? Tim has heard that Joey Bosa and the 49ers are having good conversations, and this feels like it's headed toward a deal. Nothing is done, but the Bosa brothers want to be together and probably will get there this year, which likely means this will be a moderate deal and incentives, which is exactly what we've said the 49ers would benefit from regarding Joey Bosa. This wouldn't be a good deal for San Francisco if he came in at a very expensive price. But if maybe the 49ers could even get a family discount, and if they could get Bosa at a price that reflects the fact that he has missed 23 games over the past 3 seasons, well, then the 49ers can really, really fly with this deal. Tim goes and starts to talk about the potential fit. Look at this at the top. My understanding is the idea would bring Joey Bosa in as a rotational piece. Again, exactly what we talked about the other day, not as a foundational piece, but a rotational piece. And that they'd keep Leonard Floyd, rotate Joey in and out. So Leonard Floyd could be a pass rushing specialist, and Joey Bosa would be huge for San Francisco because of his ability to play the run. 49ers need better run defense, and Joey Bosa's ability to play the run is still very, very good. Tim says, also, if everybody stays healthy, it allows the 49ers to rest Nick some more with 3 top defensive ends on the depth chart. You can never have enough good defensive ends. I don't know what this would mean for Yetur Gross-Matos, but the 49ers have run a 4 defensive end rotation consistently in the past, and Yetur was the NFC Defensive Player of the Week after that game against the Bears. As soon as that knee got healthy, he actually started delivering some good football. They still have him under contract, so I can very easily see the 49ers running out a group of Nick Bosa, Joey Bosa, Yetur Gross-Matos, and obviously Leonard Floyd. Now, guys do get hurt, and we talk about the availability concerns with Joey Bosa, so you still, I think, would have to stack in that room, and you could use, theoretically, a lower draft pick on a defensive end, a developmental project. Somebody would be your 5th defensive end who might get some time because guys inevitably will get hurt. But signing Joey Bosa, keeping Leonard Floyd, keeping Yetur Gross-Matos, those are 4 good defensive ends, right? On top of Nick Bosa, that would allow you to focus on defensive tackle, offensive line. It would open up the NFL draft for the other positions where the 49ers are also in need, because obviously this is a defense that regressed massively over the course of the past 2 seasons. The other piece of news, and this is crazy, Myles Garrett, who a few days ago was refusing to even engage the Browns on it, has now signed with the Browns to a massive deal. Like, this is a record $40 million annually for a defensive player, for a non-quarterback. To give you some perspective, you can see at the top of my tweet here, Garrett is now at $40 million per year, $123.5 million in total guarantee. Max Crosby just a couple days ago surpassed Nick Bosa at $35.5 million per year. And Nick Bosa, that was a deal that was for a long time, for 2 years, at the top of the defensive end market. That is now in 3rd place at $34 million per year. So every man has his price. On February 4th, Myles Garrett publicly requested a trade, saying that he wants to win. Didn't say anything about money, refused to engage the Browns because he wanted to win. He didn't believe in what Cleveland was doing. On February 27th, Myles Garrett And his camp said that he's unwilling to negotiate a contract extension with the Browns. Just 2 days ago, the owner, Jimmy Haslam, wouldn't even meet with him. And all of a sudden, we wake up this morning, and Myles Garrett has signed a 4-year, $160 million extension with the Browns. So we can come to the conclusion that every man does indeed have his price. And the price here, way above what we had seen at the edge rusher position before. So Jimmy Haslam said, here's a blank check. How much do you need? Do we really need to go to 40 million to make you change your tune? And yes, the 40 million threshold appears to be what allowed Myles Garrett to change his mind. Wow. That is crazy. So we are now in a situation where Myles Garrett is off the market and Joey Bosa seems to be on his way to signing with the 49ers. Not done yet, but it's something that has obviously been in the cards, I think, for a while for the Bosa brothers. They said that they talked about this all the way back to 2020 when they spent every waking hour together in the COVID year. Joey Bosa subsequently signed an extension with the Chargers. They were still in the mode where Joey was in his prime and was able to sign for massive money, $135 million with the Chargers. I think the coffee is here, so I won't be mistaking. Thank you. You got something. Lombardi herself says hello. She was on the show as soon as the Chargers released Joey Bosa the other way. Look at this nice coffee mug. Got a horse on it. I love it. I was mistaking Joey and Nick Bosa in the caption a little bit earlier. It's because time sprung forward. I did not yet have the coffee, but the coffee is here. And we're ready to handle the news as it comes. So anyway, Joey Bosa signed a contract with the Chargers. He was still in the prime of his career, trying to cash in on that, as you would expect, as is his right, as I think anybody would do. But Nick and Joey talked about it making sense at some point, and the point might be now. That's why the 49ers and Joey Bosa are closing in. And when Margot came onto the show, what was it, 3-4 nights ago, after Joey was released by the Chargers, to us, this was something that we'd be surprised if it didn't happen, right? Nowhere near a slam dunk. It's not a slam dunk yet, but it's heading in that direction. And when you look at the career trajectories for both Nick and Joey Bosa, the fact that they didn't overlap at Ohio State, but they did overlap at St. Thomas Aquinas High School in Fort Lauderdale. Nick was a freshman and Joey was a senior. They won a state championship in that season, I think 2012 or 2013. It was a long time ago. For them to be able to bookend that with some time together on the 49ers could be a magical family reunion. And Cheryl Bosa, mom to Nick and to Joey, she has even been posting about this on Instagram. So it's just made a lot of sense as long as the 49ers can get that cost efficient deal, because we've talked about the 49ers pivot to cost efficiency. That's what you have to be focused on if you're San Francisco. The best NFL rosters are built on cost efficiency, and cost efficiency is most often tied to youth because this is a young man's league. But that does not preclude you from signing players who are veterans, who are slightly older. Joey Bosa is actually only 29. He's going to be 30 this next season. So it's not like he's an ancient player. He's obviously had his health issues, but the injury problems obviously can give the 49ers a cheaper rate. And they're just like every man has his price, like Myles Garrett to stay with the Cleveland Browns. Every team has its price to make a signing cost efficient. So Joey Bosa at $30 million? No. Joey Bosa at $25 million? That's what the Chargers said no to. But Joey Bosa on a deal that's got some incentives, that's moderately priced, that acknowledges the fact that this is a multiple-time Pro Bowler and 2016 Defensive Rookie of the Year and former top 3 draft pick, just like his brother Nick. A deal that acknowledges that but fits into the 49ers cost structure? Yes, that's cost efficiency. Plus, even as you try to get younger as a football team, and the 49ers did a great job of that in the 2024 NFL draft, and they've got a hit with their 11 picks in the 2025 draft, you have to make sure that you maintain the right ratio of veteran leadership to shepherd along the rookies and the other young players. Building a locker room is a very delicate process. And it's something that the 49ers under Lynch and Shanahan have actually done extremely well over the years. Deebo Samuel, he just left in trade to the Washington Commanders. That was a week ago, right? That was last Saturday. Time flies. And Deebo Samuel, in his goodbye letter to the Players Tribune, said that this locker room is like a college locker room, that they've managed to, I've been in other NFL locker rooms. A lot of them give you the mercenary vibe. Deebo Samuel obviously has only been in the 49ers locker room, but he has friends around the league. He knows how things work in the NFL. He's been around since 2019. He said the same thing that I've been saying for years, that you step into that 49ers locker room and they have maintained a more youthful vibe. There's more exuberance in there. There's a little bit more camaraderie in there than the typical NFL locker room. So to maintain that, you have to have the right mix of young, hungry talent and also non-jaded veteran talent. And I think in the case of Joey Bosa, if you can bring him in as the 49ers, you'd have somebody that's excited to play with his brother, somebody that's excited, for a late stage chapter of his career, that's not just there to collect a paycheck, that's there for true football reasons. I mean, that could be something that really fosters the dynamic balance the 49ers want to find in between veterans and younger players. Speaking of contracts, I'm going to get back to Joey Bosa here in a second, but Mike has sent me some stuff about Myles Garrett. Is obviously the highest paid non-quarterback in NFL history. We're going to keep our eyes peeled, by the way, for Brock Purdy news moving forward. That is in the quarterback market. This is in the non-quarterback market, but this shows about the edge rushers, the second highest paid position in the league. 4-year extension, so 6 total years, because he had 2 existing years on his contract. $40 million APY for Myles Garrett. $204.8 million total value. $100 million in cash over the first 3 years. $1 million in annual workout bonuses. That I've never seen a workout bonus as big as that. So just for going to OTAs, he can make $1 million. $88.8 million in execution guarantees. $122.7 million in total guarantees. I'm assuming that he means execution guarantees is fully guaranteed money at $88.8 million. Nick Bosa was right at around that amount. Let me look that up because I think that is built to surpass Nick Bosa's fully guaranteed money, because total guaranteed money and fully guaranteed money, those are 2 separate things. Fully guaranteed money is a little bit more important. Yes. So fully guaranteed money, Nick Bosa had topped the list at $88 million, and Myles Garrett now chimes in at $88.8 million. So Justin Jefferson took aim at Nick Bosa's deal last year. Bosa was at $34 million per year. Justin Jefferson won up that to $35 million per year. And the fully guaranteed money for Jefferson, I don't know if he surpassed him in fully guaranteed money. Let's look. Yeah, Jefferson also surpassed Bosa with $88.7 in fully guaranteed money. And now at the edge rusher market, we see Myles Garrett surpassed Nick Bosa because Max Crosby is only at $62.5 million fully guaranteed. So Bosa had still been the high water mark at fully guaranteed money, but now Garrett beats him out there in everything, in APY, fully guaranteed money. But just funny enough, as soon as that dropped, as soon as we heard about Myles Garrett and the new deal with the Browns, that every man has his price, we also know that every team has its price, and the 49ers are closing in on this deal with Joey Bosa, Nick Bosa's brother. So it all seems to be converging this morning. There's another thing that we want to read from Tim here regarding the Joey Bosa decision. And I think that this, especially given the injury history, is a key one to focus on. It's the tweet in the middle here from Tim. He's Not heard specifically that this is a huge 49ers advantage, but knowing Nick's feelings about artificial surfaces, Nick hates artificial surfaces. He tore his ACL at MetDeath Stadium in 2020. And knowing Joey's injury history, he's missed those 23 games over 3 seasons, it probably is an advantage for the 49ers. Joey should want to play on the Levi Stadium grass field. In a way, this is ironic because when Levi's opened over a decade ago, the grass was such a disaster that Jim Harbaugh yanked the team off the field during what should have been a ceremonious open practice on the Levi Stadium field. And I think it led to a lot of bitterness between Harbaugh and ownership at the time in 2014. But the field at the new stadium was in such bad shape that Jim Harbaugh said, my players are not practicing on this. We remember how tough it was in the early days. The reason it's ironic is now we sit here in 2025, and for several years running, Levi Stadium has been voted the best grass in the entire NFL, the best natural surface, and natural surfaces are better than artificial ones. It's been voted the best surface by players year in and year out. So you have to give a lot of credit to the 49ers for figuring this out. It is very well documented that injury rates are lower on natural grass than they are on artificial turf. That's why every single serious soccer league is playing their games on natural grass. They insist on that over in Europe, even though there's not as much sunshine there as there is in Santa Clara. So Santa Clara is the one spot where I think it's perfect to grow grass because you get enough of the rain, right? I mean, it's not completely arid. It's not a completely desert climate, but you get a whole heck of a lot of sunshine in the South Bay. So you've got very, very good conditions to make sure that grass grows robustly, and then you manicure everything and you make sure that it is at top notch. And that is best for players. And that's why Joey Bosa should be very interested in playing half of his games in Santa Clara, half of his regular season games, more than half of his games if the 49ers can earn the 1 seed and host throughout the NFC postseason. Something that I think becomes more likely if the 49ers do sign Joey Bosa. It makes their defense better. I mean, we could even look at the roster and see how this might fit. Tim was talking a lot about keeping Leonard Floyd, which I do think makes sense. If you go to our roster builder, by the way, deadline is today at noon. So you have a couple hours to get this in. The Build Your Own 49ers roster. And this, you could sign Joey Bosa with this. I mean, it was one of our headlining actions that you could do with the Build Your Own roster. Those of you who are unfamiliar with this, because I know that we have a lot of new viewers, I am copying this link. I am sending to Mike. Mike, why don't we toss this into the description? We are not running the show on X this morning. I'm going to retweet this on X, though, if you want to go find it on X. But this is going to be in the description very shortly. Mike has it. You could build your own 49ers roster. We can scroll down here. This is what it looks like. We can click on create a copy, make a copy. And here we are. So we head over to the edge rushing position. Look, I've signed Joey Bosa already, but Myles Garrett was also a possibility, a trade, because we thought the Browns might relent at some point, but they just ended up paying him more money. So Myles Garrett, not a possibility. Joey Bosa is. Now, the cap hit I had here for him is $14 million. I think that might be a little high. I think, especially if the 49ers backload the deal. And if they put in incentives that Joey Bosa has not reached in recent seasons, specifically last year, then they won't count against this year's salary cap. That's the glory of a not likely to be earned incentive, but also when you pair it with a player who believes he can earn it, and you also believe he can earn it, you can put that incentive in to entice him to come, but it won't count against this year's salary cap. There are likely to be earned incentives and not likely to be earned incentives. LTBE and LTBE. That's literally, they just use the acronym to describe the incentives. A not likely to be earned incentive was not earned by the player in the previous season. So say that you give Joey Bosa a 12 sack incentive. He didn't have 12 sacks last season. So if that incentive is worth $2 million, it's in his contract, but that $2 million does not count against this year's salary cap. If Joey Bosa goes and racks up 13 sacks, stays healthy, has a big season, 13 sacks, and he meets the incentive, you would pay the $2 million on the salary cap in a later charge. It wouldn't hit until your 2026 charge. So you get credits and you get deductions from the salary cap, like later charges, based on which incentives are met and which incentives are not met, likely to be earned, not likely to be earned on a year-by-year basis. So this is a little bit more relevant for a team that doesn't have a whole lot of short-term salary cap space. The 49ers actually do have plenty of short-term salary cap space. So even if Joey Bosa was a $14 million cap hit for San Francisco this year, you could see the 49ers, even with, and I've done a lot of moves on here. I've even traded I have Brandon Ayuk still on the team. If you trade him, cost you $7 million on this use cap. So even if I trade Brandon Ayuk and sign Joey Bosa, this is before even a pay cut for Kyle Juszczyk is discussed, they still have $24.41 million of space. The 49ers have set themselves up to be very maneuverable in this season. A Brock Purdy extension for San Francisco, when it does come down, is if they choose to backload, they could choose to front load the deal too. But if they go with their typical backloading mechanism, they can give him an extension worth $60 million annually that only registers like $15 million against the cap this year. So in the short run, the 49ers can easily afford stuff against the cap. It is about maintaining sustainability, the flow control that we talk about in the long run when you're pushing that money back. But it's also about cash spend. And that's what we've been talking about for, 2 weeks, a week and a half at this point? Everybody pretending like this idea of a shift in the way that the 49ers do things is news, and it's really not. The 49ers began shifting how they do things as far back as last offseason when Eric Armstead decided to not take the pay cut that the 49ers mandated. They said, if you're going to stay, it's going to be on a pay cut. Kyle Juszczyk stayed on a pay cut. It's just been more of that this offseason because, and I talked about it a lot yesterday, we're on the road and we did the live on the 49ers strategic shift. And my main point was it's not a power shift. It's a change in strategy for the 49ers. And they need to avoid this becoming a power shift because that's when you start to have some toxic issues at the top of the team power structure. But the main point is that you want to make sure that everybody is pulling in the same direction, whether it be Kyle Shanahan, Jed York, or Parag Marathe. And for that, John Lynch is the key facilitator. John Lynch is the president. He's literally the president of football operations. And the reason that he's titled president is that he needs to be a presidential figure during strategic shifts like we're seeing from the 49ers right now. Anyway, the bottom line of any strategic shift is that it's going to work if everybody is thinking about it in a unified way. And the 49ers so far have been unified at top, and John Lynch has been a huge part of that, and John Lynch can continue being a huge part of that. Everything that the 49ers do needs to fall under the umbrella of their adjusted strategy, and the adjusted strategy is a natural one. It is a move toward the quarterback being the financial nexus, the financial fulcrum of the football team. No longer will you have a QB on a deal making only $5.24 million. That's what Brock Purdy's at this offseason. In the past, it had only been $1 million. You're going to have to be ready for a deal worth $60 million. You're going to have to be ready for a deal in the 50s or so, wherever you want to put it. It doesn't really matter to me. The deal is going to be much larger than it has been, and you could backload it against the cap. That's why I have it at $15 million this year, but it's going to escalate in price over the seasons. You're going to have to surf the wave of the rising salary cap, and you're not going to have quite as much money across the rest of the roster with which to build a team. So cost efficiency is going to have to be there. You're going to have to sign guys like Joey Bosa for contracts that fit within your cost structure. Now, this right here has me dip down to $14.6 million of salary cap space. That's why this has turned red. I'm encouraging people who do their build the roster or build your roster exercise to finish with more than 20 million in salary cap space, because unused space carries over from season to season. And you're going to want to leave some left over so that way you can have that buffer that the 49ers like working with and could, continue riding the wave of that salary cap with more bigger Purdy cap hits and bigger cap hits for other players hitting in subsequent seasons. To give you a good illustration of the dynamic the 49ers are working with and surfing that salary cap wave, somebody like Nick Bosa, his cap hits $20 million this offseason, but his base salary is only the league minimum, like 1.3. That's going to skyrocket next offseason. Now, they'll probably restructure Nick Bosa next offseason, but his base salary is going to go from $1 million to, I think it's like $30 million next offseason. So Bosa and the $40 to $50 million cap hits are coming, and the 49ers will absorb that when the time comes, but you could see how they structure this to take advantage of the fact that the salary cap is raising from season to season. It is tied to NFL revenue. So big morning here as time has sprung forward. Myles Garrett has his price that is $40 million annually with the Cleveland Browns. So you can take that trade possibility off the table. Meanwhile, the 49ers are closing in on Joey Bosa. That's from our Tim Kawakami at the San Francisco Standard. So at the Standard, you get all this 49ers news. You can get the Joey Bosa stuff first, and you can also build your own roster. You can't do that anywhere else. Build your own 49ers roster is here. It's waiting for you. Deadline to get your rosters in. You have to either email them to me. My email's up on my X, or send them to me on, it's dlombardi@sfstandard.com, by the way, just so you have the submission email. Or you can send them to me on X, send the finished roster, and you could win Internet GM of the Year. We're going to name the Internet GM of the Year at some point coming up. I would think this next week. It might be a busy week, just letting you guys know, but at some point here over the course of free agency, maybe after looking at how the 49ers actually build their roster and comparing it with the rosters that you submit, we'll name Internet GM of the Year. You will be mentioned on the San Francisco Standard, where you should sign up right now. The link is in the description, and if you want, you could come on to the show. We'll interview the Internet GM of the Year right here on the show, on the channel, and everything will be very fun. Wow. How about a couple questions? Then I could smell breakfast. It smells really good. So I can't stay forever because I have to eat, but I also do want to interact with you guys. It's still 10 to 15 minutes out, so we still have some time to talk. I'm looking through them. Why would you want Joey Bosa? Because Joey Bosa is a good player. He's not always hurt. He's been hurt a lot over the course of the past 3 seasons, but he definitely isn't always hurt. And you know what? He's also had to play on artificial turf. Levi Stadium would be natural grass, but saying that he's always hurt is just a gross misrepresentation of what he's actually done. Joey Bosa has played in 107 career games. Do you know how hard it is to play in 107 career games? Like, one NFL game would destroy the average person. He's played in 107. He played in 14 just last season. So most of the 23 missed games over 3 years came in seasons prior to this past one. He showed the ability to stay healthier in this past year. Again, if you could find anybody at a cost-effective price in a league that is just brutal when it comes to the injuries, so there's not a single guy that escapes completely unscathed. But if you can find anybody at a cost-efficient price, much less somebody who's won a Defensive Rookie of the Year, who's been to multiple Pro Bowls, who's obviously a really good run defender still, even if the pass rushing metrics have fallen off, well, then you'll sign him. The 49ers are probably going to get a more cost-efficient price here than anybody else can get because of a family discount. So it's just good business practice for the 49ers. I want to show you guys some of the 49ers defensive metrics And then I think you'll understand very quickly why they would want Joey Bosa on this football team. Chris asks, what about Jonathan Allen and DJ Reed? Could the 49ers still afford them? Well, I don't think Jonathan Allen is going to come in at that high of a price. I think this is somebody that'd still be interested in. The $16.5 million price tag was too much for Washington. Similar to Joey Bosa, right? $25 million was too expensive for the Chargers. For Washington, $16.5 million was too expensive for Jonathan Allen. So both of those players were released. The 49ers were really interested in Jonathan Allen as part of the Deebo Samuel trade. The money didn't line up. They wanted him at a lower price. So what is that lower price? I surmise that a lower price for Jonathan Allen would be around where the 49ers offered Eric Armstead last year, but he didn't take it, $6 million. If you get Jonathan Allen at $6 million, you say yes, like Bosa, former Pro Bowler. I don't think he's as good of a run defender as Bosa, and I think that's really where the 49ers need to focus. I think Allen wouldn't be the only addition you could make. I think Allen could be a good addition to help shepherd young guys around. This is one of the best defensive tackle classes that we've ever seen, just on the surface. Where 41 defensive tackles got invited to the combine this year versus only 25 last year. So sure, if you could find Jonathan Allen at a cost-effective price, then he can help you with a defensive tackle pick, and maybe you don't have to go and pick a guy in the very first round. Maybe you could really focus on how can you add Armand Membu or Tyler Warren to the offense of this football team in the first round. And then you could take advantage of the fact that it is a very deep defensive tackle class, bring in a body that is going to disrupt and could really learn from Jonathan Allen. You know, I'm just spitballing. There's different ways. It's like a Rubik's Cube, right? I guess there's only one way to solve a Rubik's Cube. Well, no, there's different ways to solve it. I don't know how to solve a Rubik's Cube, but I think there's multiple ways you can do it. Anyway, you can get to the destination that you want to get to through multiple different paths. And you don't necessarily know how the paths will illuminate themselves because the draft is so unpredictable. Free agency is so unpredictable. You can't go and force Jonathan Allen to sign with you, but you could be really interested in adding him, and that sets you on one path. But then you don't know how that path is going to end because you don't know who's going to be available at number 11 in the draft. So you have to have this ability to think on your toes and not on your heels. There are many different ways that the 49ers can go about it. So Allen at $6 million, I think the 49ers would be able to afford him and would be willing to afford him. DJ Reed is another question. I think he might be a little bit pricier. I think DJ Reed is perfect for the 49ers. I think he's the early prototype of Deommodore Lenoir, 5th round draft pick from the 49ers, played inside and outside. I removed on our roster builder this year, I completely removed the slot cornerback position. I think it's all one now. I think that Lenoir playing inside and outside is where the league is headed. I think you have to be able to move to the outside or vice versa with the mirroring the wide receivers on the other side. There's going to be some man coverage. There's going to be some matchup zone coverage and some of the best wideouts in the game. And this really took massive hold when Cooper Kupp had that huge year in 2021. They're going to line up on the inside more than they line up on the outside. So if your best corners can't travel inside, what's the point? Other offenses are going to be able to match up their best receiver against your third best cornerback. And then they're going to eat you alive. That's why Cooper Kupp ate the league alive in 2021. I think it's a big part of the reason why he wasn't quite as good in any season after that, because teams adapted. Cornerbacks started moving inside. So somebody like DJ Reed, he's versatile. He's a dog. 49ers might be willing to pay for that. The whole plan, though, you have to look at free agency, which the tampering window starts tomorrow, the negotiating period. And you have to look at the draft and you have to say, okay, where are our best chances going to be to add immediately to cornerback, somebody that could blossom right away? Or is this going to be more of a developmental draft for cornerback? Okay, if it's more of a developmental draft, maybe you should fork over some more cash for a veteran like DJ Reed when free agency starts tomorrow. You're going to be constantly running this balance if you are the 49ers. Jimbo wonders why Garrett just signed the extension with the Browns. because they paid him a lot of money, because every man has his price. That's why Myles Garrett signed the extension with the Browns. Again, this is what it looks like at the top of the price scale. $40 million per year. I mean, that is just a huge escalation. From 35.5 to 40. It's a massive, massive jump. It's like Jefferson-esque. Remember Justin Jefferson signed for 35? But the Browns have a history of questionable decisions, which is what led to Myles Garrett requesting the trade in the first place. They paid Deshaun Watson after bidding against themselves, $230 million fully guaranteed. That contract was signed, 2 or 3 years ago, and it's still not considered any sort of precedent at the quarterback room. Nobody takes it seriously. It's so far and ahead of all the other contracts. So the Browns are bad for a reason, because they do stuff like this. The smart move for the Browns would have been to realize that you're not winning a Super Bowl with your current quarterback situation, because Deshaun Watson is not only terrible, but he's also torn his Achilles twice. So you trade Myles Garrett for a lot of assets because he's at the very height of his value. You save the $200 million or whatever it was that you just paid Myles Garrett, and you begin rebuilding the team on a young, cost-efficient basis. But the Browns aren't smart enough to think like that. So that's why the Browns decided to do what they did and just pay their way out of this problem. Do I think the 49ers would address the center position? Well, if they do, Drew Dahlman is out there. They have gone big money center in the past. I will caution people entering free agency that I do think they like Jake Brendel more than the general public does. The general public being 49ers fans. I personally think that center is the way that you can rise the tide most effectively to lift all boats. I think it affects the other offensive line positions the most, especially in a scheme. And I think Shanahan has acknowledged this in the past. He's talked about it openly, but with the signing of Weston Richburg for big money in 2018, with the signing of Alex Mack in 2021, Mack played for Shanahan at 3 different spots. I think you could see why center is such an important position. Invader 49er doubts it. He says Hennessy is Brendel's competition. That's a good point, too. That's a good middle ground as well that I think a lot of people aren't talking about. It's funny because I talk about Alex Mack. I talk about Drew Dahlman. Matt Hennessy fits in with these guys in that he was Alex Mack's successor in Atlanta after Mack left to the 49ers. And he was Dahlman's predecessor. So Atlanta starting center in 2020 was Alex Mack. Atlanta starting center in 2021 was Matt Hennessy. Atlanta starting center in 2022 was Drew Dahlman. The 49ers now have Hennessy on their team to compete with Jake Brendel, and we'll see how that goes in this 2025 offseason. He trained under Mack. And Dahlman trained under him. Waffles or pancakes? Neither. It's going to be a sweet potato bowl. It's really good. It's like my favorite breakfast now. I think it's healthier than waffles or pancakes. How will the 49ers address the safety position if they lose Hufanga? I think they might bring in a veteran, maybe somebody like Rayshon Jenkins or Julian Blackmon. They both visited the team last year, but they've got Malik Mustafa now, and Malik has emerged as a really good safety. Jair Brown, it's iffy after that second year. So I think that's why they might want to bring in another vet. Or, I mean, it wouldn't shock me if they went top pick Nick Emanwuri out of South Carolina. I mean, he's not only a safety, he would be this joker, this rover on the back end of the defense. He's a really good football player and with how well he tested, that's going to be a mid-first round pick in all likelihood. Could really match up with where the 49ers are picking, even if they traded back a little bit. I think he can make the defense better in a lot of different ways. Defense needs a lot of help. They dropped down. It was a bad defense last year. They dropped down to number 26. That's why we're talking about Joey Bosa potentially joining the 49ers. It is moving in that direction. Tim Kawakami had all the details up on his Twitter. So go and check it out. Good stuff with Joey Bosa and the 49ers. Everybody, thanks for watching. Yes, every man does have his price. That's the Myles Garrett part of this. $40 million per year with the Browns. Bosa, maybe on his way to a brotherly reunion with Nick Bosa. And as long as the 49ers are able to nail this down at a cost-efficient rate, it is going to be a good move for San Francisco. Thanks for watching. Everybody, you do the channel a big favor if you hit that sub button. Do that right now. Hit the like button. Do that right now as well. And head on over to the link in the description. We'll put it at the top of the comment section as well. Fill out your rosters. Deadline is in 2 hours. Tweet them at me, at Lombardi himself at X. Build your own roster, and you could win your 49ers Internet GM of the Year. We'll see you soon.